I think it's the best when you paint something and it leaves the next day. The solitary act of painting it and then it's gone, it feels really pure, and it feels honest.
Yeah. So we gotta think faster at what we're doing.
Yeah, let's just walk.
I can switch that out. Yeah. We should point it out.
It stops rust. It is bold, colorful, and unquestionably illegal. The tide of freight train graffiti is rising. Each new train goes thundering down the tracks with a fresh cargo of names written in paint stick and aerosol. Each name is a voice, an individual. Some last, some fade away. These are the stories of a select few of those voices on one set of tracks in a far corner of the USA.
I remember going to the train yard, a toy, back in like 2004 and walking through on a summer day, shitting myself at the endless amounts of SFL YME panels that were in there. It was quite literally ridiculous. You would go in there and every train line that you would hop over, every time that you would turn around, you would see something from Learn or Ick or Owl or Lack or Arson or Spec. And all these New England guys were just so much more up than everyone else that I had ever seen. It just like blew my mind, you know, like that's why I paint trains, because it always seemed like such a impossible thing to achieve being up on freights, and to see how up YME was on freights, I just always wanted to chase that. The name that stuck out the most was Learn, because the way that he painted, it was so simplistic and so easy to read. I feel like I could talk to people who didn't even know about graffiti and they knew about Learn. Like I even remember my mom said to me one time, she goes, I saw this thing that said Learn, but it looked like a girl wrote it because it was so femininely done. And I remember I thought that that was so bizarre that even my mom could pick up on something like that, you know?
I've always enjoyed writing. I mean, I think that's how I was originally drawn to graffiti in like the late 80s, was just writing. Like, I just love writing. I used to write like sports teams like over and over again when I was, 11, 12, 13, and just like I loved the penmanship and just like I think it's like a repetitive moment of like I've always had a lot of anxiety, and getting that anxiety out, it does that, and it's the same with graffiti. Hand styles were always really important to me, and tagging, I hate that word, but it's like really what it was. I mean, that's what I did for the first probably 5-6 years of writing, was just tag. For me, I just like loved being in those yards. I think it was more like the environment than what I was painting. Like the graffiti was almost secondary. It's an experience. It's the process, not the product, is what I've always said. I moved out here in New England, late '95, and it was just like a bunch of dead cars in the yards, like in these storage tracks. And then like occasionally we'd go over and sneak over and do some of the live lines. I didn't even think we even knew they were live. We didn't know anything about, we didn't know about the numbers or going over anything. This is like '96. We didn't really know. We were just like painting to paint. And I think I did my first piece on a freight in early '96. And that's when I pretty much fell in love with trains.
Graffiti can be a social or a solitary art. When artists do come together, they often form crews. A crew is a way for an artist to be part of something larger. They can represent friendships, a shared location, or a goal. If a graffiti artist's name says, "This is who I am," a crew says, "This is where I come from, and this is who I'm with."
Not that much stuff on the freights back then. I mean, it was like one out of every like 15, 20 cars that have a piece on it. First guy that I saw that really, besides the solo artist, was that was really doing freights is Lack.
I started painting, I didn't even like have a word. I was just spray painting, kind of like punk rock shit or whatever. And I liked to do it, and I used to like paint weird like little faces with like fangs and like weird little characters that I thought looked funny. And then I like came up with a word that I thought no one really wrote, and that was 97 or something. And that's like the same year that I started doing trains. There was no people around for me. I didn't know any other writers, but that's the way it was. There was like nothing at the time. If you went and like walked around through the whole yard, like every line, if you saw like a burner, you were kind of privy to some like shit. You felt like you were seeing it for a reason. It wasn't just out there for everybody. It was like you're the dude that walked into that fucking yard and you were standing there at that time when that train happened to be sitting there and you fucking saw it.
And I just start seeing him on freights too, and I was like, whoa, we're like the only ones doing this.
He was like, yeah, man, I see you do a lot of freights. And he was like, we should paint together because no one else wants to do these fucking things.
We just started hanging out that summer '99 and just
Started painting together.
that was like our first freight. And I still see it rolling. It's crazy. It's like late '99, and that was it.
And I remember he called me one day.
I came up with it like one night, and I called him like the next day. I'm like, oh, let's form this crew like YME, like year-round metal enjoyment, because we're like living out here in New England. We paint all seasons. Start this crew like just strictly freights.
Yeah, let's do it. We rode it a couple times, and then we went and painted with Ick.
I was in Portland, and I was just trying to do my little thing here and there. And Lauren saw my stuff, and I think he got at me somehow online. We did the "Are you a cop?" or "Are you a cop?" dance on the email and stuff, and then we finally agreed to meet up.
He like knew so much more about trains than we did, reporting marks and black boxes and train schedules and all the stuff that we were kind of just getting used to. We just loved painting them back then. We've been writing longer than he has. Like, we knew more about graph than he did, but he knew more about trains, so we just started hanging out with him. And
I think within a month of our meeting up, we went and did some freights together, and then I think in late '99, he called me up and said, "We're gonna start a crew. It's you, me, and Lack, and let's do it. And it's about freights."
3 of us.
all right, this is YME.
Year-round metal enjoyment.
This is it! This is it! This is
It is pretty crazy.
The crew began to grow. Learn, Lack, and Ick slowly brought in other writers from the local scene. Gerv, Sept, Alki, Burn, Journey, Rent, Hazel, Hebe, Ted, Rich. All of them adding to the golden years of the YME crew.
This is it! This is it! This is it!
Check 1, check 2, check. Rich the freight wrecker. All up in your sector. YME crew. Don't be lying to me, fool. All lumber cars from as far as the eyes can see. How bunk is that? Dope. All lumber cars and oil tanks. Sick. Getting yourself out there is a great thing, but like being out there a lot and painting a lot, there's a number of things that could happen. You could get arrested. There's always that risk.
I'm Seth Berner, and I am a lawyer licensed to practice in Maine and the federal courts of Maine and Massachusetts. Graffiti is considered damage or destruction to property, and the specific charge that applies to that is criminal mischief. Criminal mischief is a Class D misdemeanor, unless the amount of damage caused is over $2,000, and then that could also be a Class C felony.
That's probably the biggest danger and risk in painting freights. You could get arrested. there's rail cops and there's people, and if you're seen around, you know, there's always that risk when you're doing your art at night.
You know, spray painting boxcars obviously is illegal. So usually if I'm walking in a yard or whatever and you show up, you know, it's kind of a mutual surprise. You walk around a corner or you're doing something and then you're face to face with these guys that are doing something they're not supposed to be doing. Usually they just take off running.
You want to just state your first name and who you work for?
Chris, and I work for Pan Am Railways.
Great. What position do you hold?
Conductor.
Yeah, I've been arrested for graffiti a few times, and a lot when I was a kid, because I was just too daring. The risk and the reward are kind of balanced out. Seems like the more risk you put in or you get away with a car, then you see it and you're like, that was a good, I remember that day, you know? It was crazy. So those ones are fun, you know?
Oh, there he is. Going around the corner now, under the bridge.
Right.
4 engines.
Oh, nice.
The last one's a Pan Am.
Yeah.
I'm thinking probably on the outskirts as it comes under the bridge
Yeah, which bridge?
at Rigby.
Okay.
So we're kind of disappointed. At 4 a.m. this morning, I heard that the Oil Extra was getting their Form D, which is the okay to continue with instructions, east. So the oil train's already gone east.
Wow.
Our hope would have been to possibly, and may still be, to catch maybe them before they get into Waterville. Or after Waterville, but we're gonna have to decide whether that's even a worthwhile goal or not
Yeah.
at this point. Now we have to be really careful where we're going. We're highly visible by anybody at the rail yard. Officially, I don't think we're trespassing, but we try not to trespass any more than we absolutely have to get our pictures. So we're gonna pull just around the corner here, far enough, and kind of get an idea of what's going on at Rigby and see if we're gonna be in trouble if we park here. I don't think we're actually on railroad property, but we're pretty darn close. But we're gonna see the train come right under the bridge here. And I gotta get my camera ready. Enthusiast, train enthusiast. You're a hobbyist if you like trains.
Railfan is like the general term, but yeah.
That's the one we like to be called.
Yeah.
Our cameras also, Dan's is nicer. He's got an HD camera. Mine does not do HD. And there's a big quality difference in the two. But we can zoom into the end of the yard. You've probably seen on some of our videos.
Benching in New England, and especially northern New England, is unique in that the region is most heavily an originator of freight. paper and lumber are king. Because of this, it is the home base for legions of boxcars. For over a century, the Maine Centrals, the Boston and Maines, and the fabled Bangor and Aroostook bar cars were visible by the thousands. In the early 90s, the CRLEs, LVRCs, SLRs, and the GMRCs began to arrive. Later in the decade, the high-cube boom began. Shippers found that they could load fewer cars with more freight and never looked back. Then in the early to mid-2000s came the F-boxes, which have been here ever since. While having so many cars based here may deny local riders big varieties of unfamiliar foreign cars, it allows them to continually observe the lives of many of their monikers and pieces.
Beer all day. Tattoo on the wall. Damn. This paint's fucking really amazing.
Maybe you can see the flips.
I think that paint should be outlawed, dude. It's like not even fair.
No, man, that's BPA free.
It's not
Nice. Yeah. It is.
And if a superstar coming out,
You gotta keep your eyes on it.
You remember that, dude? Yeah, dude. I still say that.
Go ahead, go for it.
It was just like, why me, you know, like,
Why me? Like Sam Kinison used to yell during his comedy routine.
early 20s angst. Fuck life, you know. We were all pretty like grimy, poor dudes at that time, you know, just living in shitty apartments and like shitty jobs, and just graffiti was the only thing we had.
I have an old book too, like of the years when I was like, we were like 15, 16. But like this shit, look at this. This is like, I'm 18, Gerb and Alki. Like that's an old ass Alki. This is like walking to the train yard. Alki, right, skating with a leotard on. Like that same leotard day, me, Alki, and Learn just skated around in that. Have you ever got pictures of the rock wall? But that's the rock wall that Ick did in Massachusetts. So much fucking bullshit I haven't organized. There's a soft rock train if you didn't get that. I used to be psyched on soft rock. I still am psyched on soft rock. Oh dude, this is tight. This Alki Abs. These two are like the craziest dudes, and when I saw them both on a pole together in Portland, I was like blown away. I was like, no way. What happened that night? The SFL rooftop, that's kind of classic. This is an even better picture of it. Me and Journey did that in 02, summer of 02, before I went to school. And it lasted some years. SFL, I don't know, man, that's like a long story, but SFL was kind of our like street gang.
Searching for love, some friends last, some foreign language. Basically, it was like the new generation around Portland.
I mean, we looked up to HBT, I think. Like, those dudes were like the crew at the time.
When SFL started their run, I'd say like late 90s, early 2000s, that was like the first time I saw city graffiti being done.
SFL YME all day in Portland was definitely what you were seeing when you were going through, you know. As far as an illegal graffiti thing, you know, like that was always number one.
I think SFL represents more like bombing and like fun and like just crew. And then YME is obviously crew, but it's like that was just what it was represented on freights, you know, and that's what year-round metal enjoyment. It's freights, right? And rock and roll. That was cheesy. And we were like stayed in there until the early morning hours and just were like just writing like funny ass quotes on the top of on trains, like just like having beers on top of the trains as the sun came up.
Back in the day, it was much more relaxed. Back then, you'd get a nice buzz on, you know, climb into the yards and just drink and hang out with friends and paint trains all night long until the sun came up, and you know, drink some beers on the way home, and you know, crash and do it again the next day. Just being there with your friends, you know, that's the thing. YME and SFL, we aren't just acquaintances. We were real tight. Hung out every day, and we were like family, you know, and that alone kind of fueled it.
When you paint with someone, time and time again, you just form a bond with people, you know, looking out for your safety with them, and I don't know, it's very powerful. I still dream about trains, like, it's something that'll never leave me.
All we did was just get up in the morning and try to chase freights, look for spots, paint, and get paint. We didn't go to bars or anything really. Like we just hung out and painted. Like that's all we cared about.
Year-round metal enjoyment. That was the original name for YME crew.
The one I like is yearning meaningful existence. Like the question, like asking why life, why me, why Maine, you know? The year-round metal enjoyment, you know, that's like painting metal freights all year round. It's like cold right now on this pier, but we're here doing it, you know, because this is where we live and where we're from. And the weather, you know, you can work around it.
We didn't care about winter. We didn't care about 4 feet snow drifts. We don't care about 30 below. You know, we were out there in waist deep, you know, snow, you know, with frostbite, painting, you know, the weather didn't stop us.
Man, I've painted freights in blizzards before. Up in New England, you know, you better have your toe warmers and Sorels on your feet and a couple pairs of gloves and keep your paint by the heater before you go out. You know, we're hardy folk up here, so anything's fun in a winter storm, you know, even running around town tagging.
I used to get, you know, frostbite on my finger from holding the nozzle down, and your finger would be black from frostbite or whatever, but in the winter just didn't, it wasn't a factor, you know, it was mind over matter, you know.
When I was in high school, I would stay over Learn's house on a Friday night, wake up, it'd been snowing or was snowing on a Saturday morning, and bike in the snow down to the Fore River, and then walk across the bridge and down the train tracks and paint. I mean, we painted in snowstorms, we painted in just crazy freezing conditions. I don't even know why we did that, but you know, when you got the itch, you got the itch.
I'm fucking painting, like doing my freight. I asked, like, my phone rings, I got a call. It's like, this is county, 911. Whoosh. I'm like painting a freight. I'm like, the Portland police are at your house. They reported your car stolen. Somebody like called my car and stolen, dude. That's fucking cops crazy. Came to my house. My ex-girlfriend like answered the door like, the cops came to the house. I'm like, oh no, we're just hiking in the woods, it's all set. They're like, okay, hung up.
That was it.
High legibility is big in New England, you know, because I think that the normal person who's sitting there watching a train go by, if they can actually read it and register it in their brain, in a way, it's letting them participate in the graffiti. When you see a name, that registers in your head and you say the name. That's kind of like the whole point of graffiti. When you see a learn train, you think learn. And that's like scanning it with your eyes like it's a barcode. Saying it in your head is really the goal of that New England style, you know? Like, you gotta make it legible so that everyone can read it, you know? And that will make your name bigger, and the more of a mass appeal that it has, the more people are gonna be able to recognize it.
I used to like just zone out when like Lack and Journey and stuff would talk about styles and letters. I just never really cared. I mean, arrows, and I don't know, I just don't, I'll obviously don't want my stuff to look lame. I don't want to, you know, I try to make it look aesthetically nice, but my first real influence was Dream, and it was more the stuff he wrote around his piece. Political stuff and tax dollars kill and all that stuff. I was all in like political and like just the, you know, the word dream and the energy and the feeling of it more than like, you know, what it looked like.
When you see someone's piece, their style is the feeling that the piece gives to you. It's a story that the piece tells you about who that person is, or how it was painted, or the situation it was painted in. A good family friend of Learn's passed away. I had written Let Go before, and he had done Heal pieces, and it seemed appropriate to combine the two in commemoration of a dear family friend of his.
It's like, oh, I look at pieces I did 10 years ago and I know like how I was feeling back then. I remember what I was going through, you know, and I look at pieces now and I can tell what I was feeling, and like to me that's style. It's like Journey. If you know Journey and then you see his pieces, you're like, dude, that's totally him, you know, and I've known Journey since he was 17 years old. I gave him his word, you know. Seeing him evolve as a kid to a man, like you see his pieces now and that piece is like him. His personality saturates through that piece.
Everyone does something in life, right? I think most people have hobbies or passions or an interest, and they follow that to different degrees. And mine has been writing graffiti. If you put passion, if you put yourself into whatever you do, and you're a good person in general, then I think whatever you do, regardless of the social stigma surrounding it, you end up having a positive influence on people because you inspire them, or the way that you talk about what you do, you're pleasant to be around, and so people find meaning and value in that. I try not to paint anything that's going to ruin anyone's day. I don't want to piss people off. I definitely don't want to piss the working man or woman off. I don't have any intentions of bumming people out. So I try to pick my spots, what I write, how I go about doing graffiti in a way where I hope other people who are not writers can appreciate it. That's my naive desire. If you want to make a contribution to graffiti and graffiti history, I think it's really important to be able to talk about graffiti in a way that other artists talk about whatever art that they're doing, be it painting or sculpture or poetry. I think that graffiti is a young art form, but I think there's a lot of maturing that will happen and should happen with graffiti, and I think that part of that maturing has to do with people being willing to talk about style and their own development as writers, and to be able to situate their work within the context of what has occurred before them, and in doing so also differentiate themselves from their predecessors where they deviate from certain veins of style, where they contribute unique things. I think that will benefit each of those writers in their own way, and also graffiti writing as a culture. I do research by day. I work in a lab doing cell biology. I think now, in the past 2 years, is the first time that I felt this real conflict between doing graffiti and pursuing other things, because my investment in doing graffiti has grown along with my investment in doing other things, to the point where being a writer and also being a scientist seemed really antagonistic to one another, and the next stage in doing graffiti versus the next stage in doing science can't survive together. You know, I'd have to give my all to one or the other. I just think it's impossible to go out, paint all night, come back, go to bed at 5 a.m, and be uptight enough to worry about your spot getting buffed the next morning. So you make yourself get up at 8:30 or 9 to go get day flicks as soon as the light comes up, and you can get a day flick, and then your whole next day is shot. It's hard to do both things. It is a socially ostracizing thing to do. And so, on one hand, it's been really wonderful. I wouldn't change anything, but I've maintained like kind of a dual identity as doing this academic thing and then doing graffiti. But being so invested in doing graffiti has ostracized me without a doubt from my peers in the academic world. So I would say like I haven't delved into, you know, having tons of friends or close personal relationships with people that weren't writers, just because it's something I'm so obsessed about, and it's so socially stigmatized that it's hard to share that side of you with people who don't understand. I think the buff is inevitable. I think it's dope. I think the buff is a way of like keeping graffiti writers humble.
Early on, the YME crew realized that it was sharing the rails with another crew. Located 100 miles south in Boston and the surrounding mill towns, this crew referred to itself as the Circle T crew, or simply T. The oldest freight train crew in North America, the Circle T crew traces its roots back to founders Spray, Crash, and King Mast 1 in Lowell, Mass. in 1985.
My name's Mast 1, aka King Mast 1, aka KMO. I represent the crew called FCA, Fucking Crazy Artists, coming out of Lowell, Massachusetts. Also represent the Circle T crew, being the founder of the Circle T crew, 1985. Where I lived was right across the street from the biggest train yard in Lowell. At that time, that was my playground, you know what I mean? You know, young kids doing our thing. We used to get drunk and invite the girlies in there and, you know, have good times in them freights, man. It was awesome scene. When we started writing, there wasn't a lot of stuff on the freight trains yet, you know? And what we were doing was, like I say, you know, trying to emulate the New York scene. New York had the subways. What we had was the freight trains. Back in the days, we used to go to Boston. We used to jump on a train and go to Boston. And then, of course, we're in the transit in the subway in Boston. The T in the circle is everywhere. So I was like, you know, okay, I'm gonna represent this. I'm gonna put this into my thing. It was all about bombing the transit, bombing the B&M, Boston and Maine Railroad. Constantly bombing the freights, man, constant. There wasn't a day that went by that we weren't out there. And that was for, you know, 5-6 years straight.
Yeah. And we continue on to the break of day.
Mast was the dude, when I was growing up, who was like the coolest dude in the neighborhood. He was a fucking breaker, he was a rapper, he was a DJ, he was a writer, you know, he was the man. As far as Lowell, Massachusetts is concerned, that dude was hip-hop. And back then, graffiti was fucking hip-hop.
Tags written backwards so you can read them on the other side. King Spray 1 jacking kids for their pocket funds. You want to be down, son? Go make some paint runs. Now, when Abs was a kid, you know, he knows what it was like to get down with Circle T. I mean, we were doing some crazy shit. We were like, you know, we would take a pilot and put an X on your forehead and make you run around like that. We would make you rack cans, and an incredible amount of cans, like 25 cans, man. Come back to me with 25 cans, you could maybe be down if your tag is up to par. I remember specifically with Abs and Crash 1, taking the train to Boston, going to Johnson's Paint in Boston, and making them rack paints and paint markers and all kinds of shit. And coming out with all kinds of paint markers and being like, thanks guys, okay, maybe you'll be down with the Circle T now. Maybe.
It pretty much had a run between 85 and 90, and by 90, it had waned because people had just, again, they just got into other shit. Fast forward to like 2000, I started thinking like, yo man, I want my own crew. And I just linked up with Mesh, and I'm like, wait a minute. Fuck it, I'm taking this crew over. Alright, this crew's mine now. I got on the horn with Mass and I was like, yo, listen, here's the scoop, man. He was really cool about it. He was like, I think his whole idea on it was just like, keep it going. And so he was like, yeah, man, like run with it. Like, do your thing, you know, it's you.
I got a lot of respect for my boy Abs, man, I gotta say that.
And so I took it from there and kind of rebuilt it. So there's a complete difference between what was happening in Lowell, Massachusetts in the 80s and what was happening in Metro Boston area in the late 90s, early 2000s. Completely different crews.
They blew it up, man. They blew the Circle T up, man, and made everybody know what this is about. And it's all the same. It all comes from the same place. It comes from Mill City, Lowell, Massachusetts, circa 1984, 85.
6 times the chimes of karma, 3 in turn the eternal harmony.
Just side bus me. I'm on every one near the path. Might as well like just sign my
Jesus, you left some room, right?
Yeah. Okay, the first time that I met YME cats, I met Ick from message board, 12 ounce, okay? And this is like early message board shit, like kind of weird to communicate with a graffiti writer on a message board, but whatever. This dude's like talking about things that like I can relate to. He's like, yeah, I'm in Portland, and I was like, well, I'm going up there for a Fish concert. So I go there for the show. It was me and my girlfriend, and he's like, I'm gonna be with this dude Learn. And I'm like, right on, okay. I've seen his stuff. You know, he was the man, like right from the fucking get-go. I was like, this dude's all right, man. And like, so he had his flick book and shit, and like, it was just like, it was a writer's meeting, you know. It was, these things don't happen anymore because you got fucking every asshole's flicker or whatever. But like, when a dude like showed up to meet up with you with a fucking book full of photos, it was pretty awesome. The way that YME and T joined forces was a slightly gradual. Lack was the first dude to kind of bridge that, aside from Owl. We would take trips up to Maine often enough. And I remember one night, like we were outside at Learn's house, I'm like shattered drunk because, you know, these guys know how to drink. I forget how it went, but Lack ended up saying, man, he's like, I think fucking Avs should be down with YME. And I was like, and I remember being shattered, and I'm like, well, I think Learn should be down with T. And like, it just kind of went from there.
With the addition of Avs, Mess, Arson, Epic, Owl, Spec, and Space, plus Wolf and Moan from New York, and Twigs from the Pacific Northwest, the YME crew grew to its fullest current size, where it remains to this day.
I probably did that tag in 1995. Statute of limitations is fucking far, long run out on this one. Should take that sign, but this used to be called the North Yard. I called it the Alewife Yard. What the B&M called it was the North Yard. But it was just all freight. So all those buildings over there and shit, they weren't there. It was just all fucking freight yards, steel mills. Yeah, it's all gone now. But what are you gonna do? I think this does hold the record for the largest illegal trackside in the city. So I mean, we did this wall. We can kind of go in there, but before this was here, all the kids that used to paint this yard back in the early 90s had all hollows and tags, end to end. It looked really good. You know, old Krylon flared and shit. So about, 8 or 9 years ago, it all had been toyed out. And I'd always wanted to do this wall proper, so I got these guys. We spent a few nights down here, just rolled it all out and kind of put out, to pasture all the fucking shit, the cool shit that got, gone over. And now this is kind of gone over by all the trees. It's better this here being overgrown than the fucking toy shit that had gone over the original shit than the original guys who painted this yard. I ended up running into these guys in here summer of '94, Alert and Pearl. And the guy Pearl actually ran up on me and was like, what do you write? One of those classic fucking moments, in a yard. Nothing really happened. He kind of gave me a little shove through his fucking cider jack he was drinking at me. He told me never to come back to this yard. Of course, I was back like a week later. Those guys ended up getting like busted around '95. They all left. I pretty much held it down in here after that. And the guy Pearl who tried to fucking run up on me, we ended up becoming friends and becoming fucking T-Crew. I was down here, like right after I got out of jail. I started seeing the solo artists a lot. I was like, well, this dude's on fucking everything. And Ick, too. That's the first time I'd seen Ick with the little skulls getting fucking hatcheted.
Yep.
And I was like, these guys had to have been in this yard. I was like, this is crazy. I think this owl piece is really fresh. It's holding up, I think, the best out of all of them. Yeah, I mean, Owl, it's crazy. Like, a lot of these early 90s guys that painted this yard started in, like, 87, and by 90, 91, they were fucking real sick. They progressed really quick, whereas I didn't progress really quick. And the only dude I know from, the first decade, the 2000s, Owl. He was the dude who started late, got fresh really quick. And now he knows a lot of those dudes, too, down in, whatever. He wouldn't want me talking about that, so I'm not going to say anything. But yeah, Owl definitely knew what he was doing. Know how to make you paranoid too when you're going to a spot too. But there's nothing wrong with being paranoid. You gotta be safe.
Healthy doses of paranoia is always
North Station. Some old shit there. It's an old throw-up of mine right there, that YME. The one on the left's my old partner Diesel. I've known him for over 30-something years. He don't write no more. After I got raided in 1997, he pretty much hung it up. So I got paraded through the news and all that shit, all the papers. Caught up on by the police at the spot. They gave me probably the best beating of my life. Went to a yard, which actually turned out to be a Hall of Fame spot because there was a bridge there. And I was painting this gondola, and undercover hopped out. I got around him, got stuck in some mud. I was kind of running in place. I actually dusted the guy, but they had a helicopter out there, so they had the helicopter on me, and I was just going through. I was a good 100 yards ahead of this undercover, running through this industrial area. The other two kids I was with actually ran up on the highway and got away, which is good. But next thing, they had a cruiser run right up on me, get on the ground. I got on the ground. They just fucking laid into me, unarmed. At the time, I actually had broken my hand about a month before, and I just got out of the cast, and they had me fucking twisted up and stomping my head into the ground. The mugshot of that would look good. Yeah, it's I really can't even get into it. It's kind of still a shitty situation.
Design 11, you said he is clear of CPF 198, over? It's a thrill to see what you might see, especially for Maine, what you might see for power. You try to build a relationship with that engine so that there's a connection. It's almost like a car. It's a history trip, and of course the motion. Getting to see the locomotive and the cars in action.
I don't know what the attraction is. Every day. They'll get out in all kinds of crazy weather. Every once in a while, you'll be running a train, and there will be 50 people lined up at all these different places, all these overpasses, taking these pictures. I don't know, whatever floats their boat, but yeah, I use every day. I don't know the different stuff, but I guess it's like certain engines when they're together, or facing a certain way, or you got certain freight, or something. I don't know what it is.
The locals do not like rail fans at all. We're not exactly sure why they don't. We've been told they don't like being filmed because in their contracts, if they're not following their contracts with the safety issues like gloves, wearing gloves, jumping off locomotives and trains before they actually come to a complete stop, that they are actually fined by the company or can lose their jobs. That's what I've been told after I published a video, and it wasn't up, what was it up, maybe a day, 24 hours at the most, and I got some major reaming out Getting any good shots?
Yeah, pretty good.
Here he comes. Oh, pristine. Sort of until you look at it close. We are on their property, but we try to stay as much out of their property and yet get good pictures at the same time. There's a lot of areas that you're not quite sure if they're no trespassing or not. I don't break the rules any more than, if I really need a picture, I'm gonna maybe take a quick minute to drive into their parking lot and grab a picture. I'll be the first to admit it. But
I wouldn't mind seeing that 1750s, whatever it is there.
I think you'll be able to zoom in on it from the warehouse. I'll take you over before we get ready to leave. You want to go now? Or?
No, let's watch them switch for a little.
About 3.5 to a Ichabod is the most epically up writer that I have ever seen on freights, in my personal experience. I don't even think that I would be sitting here talking to you about graffiti if it wasn't for Ichabod.
Man, he is on point. Like on another, like alien level on point, like what the fuck, like just other forms of intelligence, like just whoa.
Something about the way that Ick paints on freights is just amazing.
I mean, I like to think that it was all thought out, but I always say like graffiti is like, your name is like your brand. You build your brand. You attach your brand to other companies, that's crews, you know what I mean? So in his branding of his name, just those block letters, like on a train, like that was so fucking perfect. Like when a train goes by at 30 miles an hour, if you're not really in tune with graffiti, you see some wild shit and you can't read it. Even some semi-wild shit, you can't read it. That Ichabod stands out. His brand is just so well crafted, and he just paints so much.
He embodies what he creates. There's a lot of mystery to the writer himself. It's warranted because he's kind of an enigma of a human, and he's exactly what you would picture his output. The man behind the mask is kind of like what he is, which is cool.
He's pretty relentless. He definitely humbles a lot of people with the amount of trains he's done.
How many freights can you estimate that you've accumulated since the beginning?
It's not an estimate. I've kept exact count of whatever I consider significant enough to count, which is somewhere around a stamp. I'll count it if I do 2 fills together, what I call the double bubble. I don't really count single fill-ins, but just the ones that I've counted as of this interview, it's 2,627. It travels, man. It rolls. It rolls around the whole continent. I always liked watching the freights. big old heavy metal trains rumbling by, like with mysterious cargo, you know, mysterious origins, mysterious destinations. That was always a really strange and interesting thing to just look at. They go places I haven't been. They go to places I may never get to. You paint a train and, you know, the next day it's gone. And they park another one there and you paint that one and that one's gone. And then, you know, the next thing you know, it's in California or Texas or Vancouver or Oaxaca. You know, you just never know where it's going. And I just love that feeling. No wall can measure up to that. There's more track in this continent than I'll ever walk or I'll ever get to see. I can just about guarantee every railroad track that's been laid down in the US for sure, most of Canada and a good portion of Mexico, my stuff's rolled through. And that never fails to like get me psyched, that never fails to amaze me. I've said it before, the lines don't lie, and there's just nothing like it.
No one much care for his wants or likes, talking about first name Willie, last name Chan. But all anyone ever called him was that old Chinaman. You know his whole family worked out on that line. Total number was 109. Well, the man in charge, mean old Captain Jacks. And his whip left its mark on 109 backs. You know those rich robber barons, they paid Captain Jacks well. Called him the devil of Chinaman hell. Listen now, Captain Jacks, you got a schedule to keep. And he had permission to leave 109 in a heap. He said, now hurry up, you coolies. Now hammer down those tires. Best work quick or say your last goodbyes. Well, Willie Chan asked for water for his own engineer. Captain's whip crack countless, left Willie Chan lying dead.
A network. It's rolling thunder, dude. It's a ribbon rail. It's so many things. If you really stop and think about it, what other type of art form can you do, and then it connects to some other artist from some other part of the country without you doing anything else afterwards? We used to record our numbers on the trains, and we could track them. So you'd paint something and go home and track that train and go, oh, what I just painted in Colorado right now, or San Francisco, or that made it much more addicting. You were like, wow, that train is being seen by riders on the West Coast right now. So that feeds the frenzy.
No, the whole train car was laughing till they heard something break, calling out the Lord's name for their own sake. Well, I guess those coolies didn't hammer down those tires so well.
The trains are so real, especially in an age where you order shit online and get it flown over to you or zapped to your PayPal. The freight is still this rusty fucking bellowing smoke and chugging down the line kind of thing, man. You gotta love that. You have to hold on to that. There could be a time when this is all gone,
Holy shit. No runs, no drips, no errors. Well, I don't know about the errors. This is for sure one of ours. I can almost guarantee it. Cleveland, Ohio. 1991. Krylon. Of course, I've had to have the graffiti talk with many a girlfriend, and I always try and think of how I can explain to them why I do graffiti, you know? Justify it in a sense, I guess. Before, I wouldn't even tell anyone, you know? Like, it was like an unspoken thing. And that sucked. To not be proud of what you do, you know? That you, like, I'm thinking about this stuff every day for a certain percentage of my day. And I can't tell anyone that. This is my skill. This is my craft. And I can't tell anyone. That sucks, you know? It's a hobby, you know? It's something to think about. I don't like watching TV. I don't like going shopping. I don't like going skiing. This is my hunting. This is my four-wheeling, you know? And it's just mine happens to be illegal. I could be laid up in some house drinking Coors Light and smoking weed and watching the football game. But I don't want to do that. I want to go on a walk through the woods to go find a train and paint on it. You know, that's what I like to do. I have this passion and love for this thing that people can't relate to, but if you really think about it, it's just like anything else. It's something that I understand, I appreciate, and I want to be involved in. And I think it's an awesome thing. I think it's amazing. It's just a good thing for me. I think it's a positive thing for me. Me writing on people's stuff doesn't make me like a sociopath, you know? I'm not like careless and like don't give a shit about other people's feelings or their things. It's just like something I do. I'm sorry if it's inconsiderate. So is blowing your nose in a restaurant. So is cutting in line. Like, okay, I don't know. If it bothers you that bad, hide in the bushes and wait for me, you know? I don't know. Call the police. Sorry.
My goal isn't to really preach to people like how they should do their thing. But I just think freights are different just because of how they work. If you think about it, and if you want to be in this game, and you want to have longevity, and you want the spots to not get blown up, you should use your head, and you should do the things that keep the spot chill. The workers can sort of veto you. They have the power to fuck with you or not fuck with you. If you piss off the workers at a layup that you paint, they can report the fact that the place gets painted. They can call the cops. They can fuck with you. They can bring their own paint in and diss your shit. It just seems like common sense to not piss them off. If you just paint the train and you don't leave cans and you don't leave any other clues that you were there, they might not even know you painted the trains there. And they'll roll out and new trains will roll in, and you can paint those too.
If anybody's watching this that does like to tag trains, I would say don't do it, but don't spray paint over the numbers, especially. I mean, those numbers are there for a reason. There's a lot of numbers on the boxcar.
They need things like the numbers, the reporting mark, the car number, the load limits, the little black box with the brake and service information in it. Paint over the numbers, you're just shortening the life of your piece. If you save that information, if you go around it, and you can cut it pretty close, shave your way right up to the numbers as long as they're still readable. That looks a hell of a lot better than a big 3x4 foot square taken out of your shit with the numbers printed in that. So you're doing yourself a favor and you're doing the workers a favor. Some people seem to have this mentality like as long as they get their flick, they don't care if their shit gets stamped later. I don't really get that, because if that's your mentality, then go paint a wall. And the whole point of painting freights is to have them roll around and go to different places and be seen by different audiences. To me, it's a no-brainer.
That I don't know. Worm. Oh. A worm actually returns more to the earth than it actually takes out of the earth. Certainly can't say that about human beings. Chairmeister, how are you?
All right, I was on the phone.
Well, let it go. He'll go on his own. How are you?
Hey, pretty good. For me, I've been a railfan almost all my life, probably 60 to 65 of the 70 years I've been living. I've spent somewhere near the railroad, watching trains or recording information. For me, I like trying to get pictures of these engines up here in the form of railroad colors and paint and stuff before they paint them, and then getting pictures of them after they painted them.
And what's that thing say?
I think that says link.
Oh,
And racket. What is racket? And
well, I make money on a couple cement cars going through Brunswick. I went on the side.
Another pond?
There was a CN car, and I said, Cookie was here on both sides of the car. And actually, the car came back, a couple times.
oh, that looks like a new, sort of a newly painted boxcar, but I can't tell.
I'm not in favor of graffiti myself. I could never see graffiti on a car as being much more than making a mess of the car, I'd rather see the car the way it is, rather than see all this whiting on the side,
I do realize it costs millions of dollars for railroads to clean that all off. I'm not 100% sure when they ever do that, because I've never seen anything really washed off. I just wish I could read some of the stuff on there. It's pretty cool artwork and colorations that they use. So.
Yeah, if you could find the guy who put it on, he could tell you what it all meant,
Yeah. Yeah, and then you'd be in jail.
What do you mean you'd be in jail?
Yeah. He would be.
He would be, yeah. No, not if nobody knows about it other than him and you.
Some nights are just electric, and that never goes away for anyone who even remotely likes doing graffiti writing. You know, some nights you just feel it, like before you even think of it or think of any colors or look at what you have for paint, you just feel it. And that's a good night. That's how the good night starts. You go to the yard and there's probably some action or the layup, and it's hard getting in there, and you get there and it's like the Garden of Eden, you know? You don't hear a thing and you're there and there's this big train and it's huge and it makes you feel small, and you paint on it, you know, and you do your best shit you can on this, and it has all these ridges and bars and latches and pieces of wood and numbers for you to go around, and you do the best you can on that train. The proof is in the pudding with freights. One night, we ran from the cops, what we had thought was cops, someone chasing us, and I ran across the yard, and it was ghost cars. It was a super foggy night, and the ghost cars were coming out of the fog and leaving a trail of fog behind them, like a wake of fog, and they were flying down, and one went right by me. A Boston and Maine went zinging by me at like zero stealth silence out of the fog, and I was like, shit. There was like 8 more tracks in front of me, but I had to run across them, and looking back, I was seeing a couple more go by, and whoever had the flashlight had stopped chasing us, me and a couple other people, and I just remember we talked about that all night, like, damn, they were like ghost cars coming out of the fog fast, like they were stacking the lines, and it was crazy. It definitely gave me a whole new found respect for the yard and the activity of freights when you're painting them, and to always have your wits about you. The freights deserve it too, you know? They're not there to be destroyed, they're just there to be painted on and respected, but the law is definitely gonna crack down on you, and you're not gonna be everyone's hero painting trains. But as long as you're good in yourself and what you're doing, then that's all you need. And, you know, try not to be a dick. I think one day my kids they'll appreciate what I did, no matter what happens, and that I lived my life like how I wanted to live it, and I did what I wanted to do, no matter what the status quo was on it or how it made me look. And hopefully they can take that and use that in their own life, you know? I think that's admirable. I'm not gonna contradict my whole life for the sake of looking good. All right, we bench on the reg. Me and Rocky be benching on the regular. We be benching all the time. Damn, son. Come on, son, that's my interview, yo.
What do you think about the,
This is G right here.
When you're out doing something illegal, like, you may get rolled on or arrested at any time. So you need to start your thing, fucking execute it, and finish and get the fuck out of there. That's the motivation I need to actually finish a project. So I can do a panel or a couple of panels or a whole car or whatever, with that kind of tension. A lot of regular artists would just like crack. They couldn't handle the illegal aspect of it. They'd be too nervous to like pull something off. I talked to some artists who are like, I don't know how you can do that. And it's like, well, I honestly don't know how you can sit in a studio all day without that threat over your head to make you produce. And there's all kinds of different people, but it's the thing that still drives me. It's like what I get out of bed for, and there isn't much else I can get out of bed for. As long as I have the fever, I'm going to keep going out and painting. And I'm surprised that I have had the fever this long. I don't know whether that means I'm completely insane or if this is a valid activity to be spending my life on. It feels like it has intrinsic merit, but maybe it's just a destructive addiction. I don't know. I don't question it. I just keep going. Till I'm done, man. I'm going till I'm done.
15 years in graffiti is a long time. Each decade, people pass away, get caught, or simply lose interest. Only the trains remember them, and the trains couldn't care less. Scrapped, repainted, or gone over by newer graffiti, pieces and stories fade into oblivion. Between health and families and careers, some artists learn to forget. Some keep going.
Nothing's gonna make me stop writing on trains or graffiti in some way or form. If I could say this to all the writers that get older, no matter how much famous you are, no how much money you're making, no matter how much family you have, even if once a year you go out and something, you're a couple times a year you do a freight, or I feel like if you're a rider, you still creep out once in a while and do something, you know. You're still like saying, thank you, graffiti. If you look at graffiti as like its own entity, its person, you're like, thank you for what you've done for me. That's the way I look at it. I like, thank you for keeping me out of like a lot of other shit that I could have got into, you know? You like gave me this outlet, and I'm not gonna betray you by selling you out or quitting for some fucking stupid reason. So we're here way before you, and it could be here way after you. So it's like, don't turn your back on graffiti. Remember what it's done for you in your life, you know? If you're a real rider, you know? Nothing will ever stop me from riding on stuff that doesn't belong to me. And that's really what graffiti is. It boils down to. It's like you're writing on shit that doesn't belong to you. And that's what it is, and that's what it should always be, you know?
Freight train, running so fast. Freight train, running so fast. Please don't say which train I'm on. They won't know which route I've gone. When I die, Lord, bury me deep, way down on old Congress Street. Place those stones at my head and feet till I'm all I've gone to sleep. When I'm dead and in my grave, no more good times here I will crave. Place me by old number 9 so I can hear her moving down the line. Freight train, running so fast. Freight train, running so fast. Please don't say which train I'm on. They won't know which route I've gone. Freight train, running so fast. Freight train, running so fast. Please don't say which train I'm on. They won't know which route I've gone. They won't know which route I've gone. They won't know which train I'm on. Choo choo.